Welcome to Ijoma's Moonlight Tales. Today's story is titled When the Heart Speaks Louder Than Gold, Olabisi's Choice. In the heart of the kingdom of Oyo, Olabisi was known for her beauty. Her presence radiated like the morning sun. Daughters of noblemen were envious, and sons of chiefs spoke of her in whispers, each dreaming of winning her hand. Her father, Chief Balogun, had placed an exorbitant price on her dowry, and suitors from all over the kingdom came, bearing gifts, hoping to win her favor. However, Olabisi had her heart set on something greater than riches. She desired love. As days passed, Olabisi's mother, Ireti, reminded her of the importance of a strong marriage alliance. The family needed a union that would elevate their social standing and cement their influence in Oyo. But deep in her heart, Olabisi knew that wealth and status were not the pillars of happiness. She often wandered to the nearby river, reflecting on her future. What would it take to marry for love in a world where her worth was measured in gold? One afternoon, Olabisi, as was her usual pattern, went to the river to clear her mind. The sound of the flowing water calmed her spirit, and as she knelt down to wash her face, she heard a voice behind her. Turning, she saw a man, dressed simply, but with an air of kindness that made him stand out. His name was Ayodele, a man known in the village not for wealth, but for his generous heart. Ayodele offered her a humble greeting, and though she initially hesitated, his sincerity disarmed her. They began talking, and Olabisi found herself laughing at his jokes and stories, unlike the other men who came to her with prideful arrogance. Ayodele treated her like a person and not a prize to be won. As the sun set, Olabisi knew this was the beginning of something special. Olabisi returned home that evening with her thoughts consumed by Ayodele. He lived a simple life as a farmer, spending his days working in the fields. Yet he was content with what he had. His family was poor, but they were happy and well respected for their integrity. His dreams were modest, centered around building a home and raising a family on the values of love and trust. As Olabisi lay on her mat, she couldn't help but compare him to the wealthy suitors her father favored. They paraded their riches, but none of them had touched her heart the way Ayodele did. She was torn between her family's expectations and her newfound feelings. Could she truly forsake wealth for love? The following day, Chief Balogun summoned Olabisi to discuss her future. His eyes gleamed as he spoke of the offers coming from wealthy suitors. Bags of cowries, plots of lands, and even herds of cattle.
Your dowry will bring honor to our family, he said proudly. You must marry someone who can provide for you and elevate our name.
Olabisi listened but remained silent. How could she tell her father that none of those riches mattered to her? That the thought of being with a kind poor man like Ayodele made her happier than all the wealth in Oyo. She knew this conversation was only the beginning of a long battle for her heart's desire. Olabisi decided to confide in her mother, hoping that Ireti might understand her plight. Late that evening, she entered her mother's quarters and spoke softly. "Mother, my heart is not in those riches. There is someone who has captured my soul, but he has no wealth." Ireti, who had been raised with the same expectations Olabisi now faced, was initially taken aback. "You are the daughter of a chief, Olabisi. Our family's honor depends on the union you make," she cautioned. But as she looked into her daughter's eyes, she saw the sincerity and depth of her feelings. Ireti knew that love was a powerful force, one that even she could not deny. Meanwhile, Ayodele had also been thinking of Olabisi, though with mixed emotions. He knew she was out of his league, a princess among men, while he was but a humble farmer. His friends warned him not to entertain hopes of being with her, saying that Chief Balogun would never allow his daughter to marry someone of such modest means. Despite their words, Ayodele could not forget the moments they shared by the river. He had never met anyone like Olabisi, someone who saw beyond his poverty and valued his heart. But could he truly ask her to sacrifice the comforts of wealth for a life of simplicity? One evening, Olabisi sent a message to Ayodele through a trusted servant, asking him to meet her by the river. As they stood together under the moonlight sky, Ayodele voiced his concerns.
I cannot give you the life you deserve, Olabisi. Your father will never accept me.
Olabisi took his hand and looked into his eyes. "What I deserve is love, Ayodele. Riches mean nothing if my heart is not happy." Her words stirred something deep within him, and for the first time, Ayodele allowed himself to hope. Together, they vowed to find a way to convince her family that love was more valuable than gold. As their secret meetings continued, rumors began to spread throughout the village. People whispered about Olabisi's growing affection for Ayodele, and some even hinted that she might defy her father's wishes. While some admired her courage, others criticized her for considering a man with no wealth or standing. Chief Balogun soon caught wind of these rumors and grew concerned. He had grand plans for his daughter, and none of them involved a poor farmer. He was determined to protect his family's reputation, so he summoned Ayodele to his palace with the intent of putting an end to this forbidden relationship. Ayodele arrived at the palace with trepidation, knowing that this would be the most important conversation of his life. Chief Balogun sat before him, flanked by his council, his eyes filled with authority.
You dare to pursue my daughter, knowing you have nothing to offer?
The chief boomed. Ayodele stood firm, his heart pounding in his chest.
I may have no wealth, but I have love. And I will work hard every day to make her happy, Chief.
The chief scoffed at his words, dismissing them as youthful foolishness. He warned Ayodele to stay away from Olabisi, but Ayodele refused to back down, determined to prove that love was the greatest treasure of all. When Olabisi learned of her father's confrontation with Ayodele, she was devastated. She had hoped her father might see reason, but his pride was unyielding. Desperate to change his mind, She knelt before him, pleading for his blessing. Father, I beg you to see Ayodele for who he truly is. He may be poor, but his heart is rich with love. Chief Balogun's face softened for a moment, but his resolve remained.
Love will not feed you, Olabisi. It will not build a house or raise children. You must marry a man who can provide for you.
Heartbroken but not defeated, Olabisi vowed to find a way to prove her father wrong. Realizing that she could not win her father's approval alone, Olabisi turned to the village elders for guidance. She sought out Adebayo, an old and wise man who had advised the kingdom's leaders for decades.
You seek to change your father's mind, but his pride is strong, Adebayo warned. However, love is not without its power.
He advised Olabisi to be patient and to allow Ayodele the chance to prove his worth.
The heart of a father can be swayed by deeds, not words,
he said. Olabisi knew that this journey would not be easy, but she left the elders' home with a renewed sense of hope. Inspired by Adebayo's wisdom, Olabisi and Ayodele began to devise a plan. Ayodele would work harder than ever, demonstrating his dedication and commitment to their future. Olabisi, meanwhile, will continue to speak with her family, subtly shifting their perceptions of wealth and love. Their plan was simple, but rooted in their belief in each other. Olabisi knew that they could not rush this process, but with each day passing, their love grew stronger. Together, they were both determined to show the world that true happiness could not be bought with gold or silver. With their plans set in motion, Olabisi and Ayodele grew more determined each day. Ayodele returned to his fields, working harder than ever, not for riches, but to show that he could build a life of love, stability, and joy for Olabisi. His dedication became known throughout the village as people noticed how tirelessly he labored under the sun, cultivating the land and caring for his animals. His kindness and humility remained steadfast, winning him respect even from those who once doubted him. Olabisi, on the other hand, used her influence subtly. She continued to attend royal functions and gatherings, but her conversation often steered towards the value of love, character, and integrity. She spoke on marriages built on mutual respect, affection, rather than wealth and power only. Slowly, her words began to take root in the minds of some of the elders and other noble families. She knew that it wouldn't be easy to change such deeply ingrained tradition, but her faith in love gave her the strength to keep pushing forward. Months passed, and while Chief Balogun remained resistant, he couldn't ignore the transformation happening before his eyes. His daughter's quiet confidence and determination began to wear down his pride. He noticed how the village spoke of Ayodele, how respectful he is, and how even the wealthiest suitors paled in comparison to Ayodele's sincerity and dedication. Chief Balogun, for all his pride, loved his daughter deeply, and her happiness meant more to him than his reputation. Yet, he struggled with the idea of allowing her to marry a man with no riches. One evening, after much contemplation, Chief Balogun called for a meeting. He called this meeting with his closest advisors. He sought their counsel, knowing that their words often shaped the decisions of the kingdom.
My daughter wishes to marry a man with no wealth, no standing, he
began, his voice heavy with uncertainty.
But she claims he can provide her with a happiness no riches can buy. What do you have to say?
The room felt silent as the advisors exchanged glances. Some spoke of tradition and duty, urging the chief to maintain the expectations of the past. But others, inspired by Olabisi's quiet rebellion, spoke of a changing world where love and loyalty might be worth more than gold.
A man's worth is not in his wealth alone, but in the strength of his character.
One elder said, "If
Ayodele can offer your daughter love and honor, is that not a dowry of his own?"
These words weighed heavily on Chief Balogun. For the first time, he considered the possibility that perhaps his daughter's vision of happiness held more truth than he had realized. He knew that no amount of wealth could replace her smile, her laughter, or the love she would find in Ayodele's arms. A few days later, the chief called for Ayodele once more. But this time, the atmosphere was different. Instead of anger or reproach, there was a sense of curiosity. Ayodele, though still nervous, entered the palace with his head high held, ready to face whatever awaited him. Chief Balogun studied the young man carefully before speaking.
You claim to love my daughter, yet you bring no riches, no power, no land. What can you offer her that these things cannot? He
asked, his voice calm but firm. Ayodele met the chief's gaze and responded with quiet confidence.
I offer her my heart, my devotion, and my promise to work every day to make her happy. Wealth can fade, but love endures. I may not have gold or cattle, but I have a love that will never waver, and that I believe is worth more than anything money can buy.
The chief listened in silence, his face unreadable. Then, after what felt like an eternity, he nodded slowly.
Perhaps you are right,
he said, his voice softening.
Perhaps love is the greatest treasure of all.
With that, Chief Balogun gave his blessing, and the village erupted in celebration. The news spread like wildfire. Olabisi, the beautiful maiden, with the highest dowry, would marry for love and not riches. The wedding was unlike any other in Oyo. While there were no extravagant gifts of gold or cattle, the joy that filled the air was priceless. Friends, family, and villagers gathered to witness the union of two souls who had defied the odds and proven that true love is more valuable than any material wealth. The kingdom itself seemed to glow with the energy of their love, and for the first time in generations, people began to see that their heart's desire could not always be bought with riches. Olabisi and Ayodele's marriage became a symbol of hope for the people of Oyo. A reminder that love, when pure and true, could overcome any obstacle. Together, they built a life of joy, not in the shadows of wealth, but in the light of their love, showing the world that the greatest wealth one could ever possess is the love shared between two hearts. And so they lived happily, proving that love indeed was the greatest dowry of all. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the story. Now to the moral lessons. The moral lesson of the story is that true love, commitment, and personal integrity hold greater value than wealth or material possessions. While society may place a high emphasis on status and riches, the deepest fulfillment comes from genuine human connections built on respect, kindness, and shared values. The story also teaches that standing firm in one's belief, even when faced with opposition, can lead to lasting happiness. In the end, love and inner strength can overcome the barriers of tradition and societal expectations, proving that emotional wealth is far more rewarding than material gain. I want to use this medium to appreciate you all for always stopping by to engage. See you in my next one. Bye.